And you all did. Everybody stand up. Come on, let's get this over with. Stand up, give somebody a hug, say good morning to someone, say glad to see you this morning. I know. Dave, good morning. Good morning, Alex. I can actually see you guys this morning. That's awesome. All right, everybody, let's go. Here we go. Really good to see you all. And like Shelley was saying, it's been a wild football kind of weekend kind of deal, which is very interesting. And I'm glad that you're here today because some of you are in mourning. Mike Loffer, I see you in service today. The Detroit Lions lost. I'm so sorry. That's all right. I'm a Steeler fan. What do I have? We got nothing to say. Anyway, have you ever been in a place in your life where you're just itching for something new? I mean, you just want something new. Maybe for you, it might be a pair of new shoes. Or ladies, it might be a purse. Or we're in Ohio, it might be another snow shovel. I don't know. I mean, you're just itching for something. Or it might be a new guitar. For the past few months, I've been itching for a new guitar. And I've been searching for the exact style of guitar that I don't have. And so for me to buy something like that, some things have to fall into place. Number one, it has to be an incredible deal. I won't buy anything that's not an incredible deal. Number two, it has to look good. All right, that's important to me. It has to look good. And number three, the neck on the guitar has to be perfect for me. Doesn't matter if it's perfect for anyone else. Just has to be perfect for me. I have to like the way it feels. And will somebody just tell me, say, Scott, you have enough guitars? Thank you. My wife appreciates that. Thank you very much. It's a little late, but thank you for saying that to me, all right? As I started writing this week's message, it hit me hard because here's the title we decided on: When Less is Better. I don't need another guitar. I've got 30 guitars, by the way, just in case you wondered for a count. Some of those are residing at my youngest son's house. I don't know how they got there, but they ended up there. So I've got about 30 guitars, and I'm looking online, and I see the guitar that I kind of want, and it was cheap. And then ends up, I look at the seller on Facebook Marketplace, and it's Brock, the worship pastor from Eastside Christian, and I know Brock. And so I gave Brock a message, and I said, hey, man, what do you, and he gave me an incredible deal that I just couldn't pass up. So I bought another guitar. No more guitars. But if you happen to have a Jazz Master laying around in your closet somewhere, don't do that. No more guitars. I've got enough. Now, we're going to continue in this series based on a Life Church teaching about having a healthy heart and the habits that we need to get ourselves into for a healthy heart. And the teaching today, I'm just going to say this, could be so important to you, or you could sit here and go, yeah, not for me. Checking out. Not about me, not about my life. Nothing I can learn from this. Don't need this. Maybe the person sitting next to me needs this. I'm good. Let me just say this. You're not good. You can use every ounce of this teaching. You need it in your lives. You just do. Last week, we took this deep dive into this self-evaluation of where we are in our lives. And we have to do those self-evaluations occasionally just to see where we really are. And we hit on this idea about lying. And we kind of went through the fact that everyone lies, right? Every single one of us lies. So how are you doing with your lying issues? We all have lying issues. How are you doing with yours? Were you even aware of how many times you lied this week? I mean, were you conscious of that? If you were here last week, did it open up anything in your mind to go, oh, I just lied right now? Well, that's not good. That wasn't good. I just kind of lied right now. And were you conscious of how many times you lied to yourself this week? And that can sound a little weird until you realize that the person that you lie to the most is you. We lie to ourselves more than we lie to anyone else. We tell ourselves, I'll do it tomorrow. When you know you're not going to do it tomorrow. You're not going to, but you tell yourself you're going to. You're lying to yourself. I can stop anytime I want to. No, you can't. Because if you could have stopped, you would have stopped, and you didn't stop, so you can't on your own. We lie to ourselves. We say, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good. Good. I'm good. How are you? I'm good. You know how many people this morning that I talked to said, I'm good? Are you really good? No, you're not really good. You're lying to yourself. I don't care what you think, right? I don't care kind of what's going on around you. We lie to ourselves to make ourselves feel better for the moment, but deep inside, we really know that we're not okay. It's not a big deal. Yes, it is. If it wasn't a big deal, you wouldn't keep thinking about it. It's a big deal. And the person we lie to the most is us. Here's another one of the big lies. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is this: more is better. Write that down. I know you're going, I don't have anything to write that down on. Write it down on your phone. Do whatever you have to do. More is better. Whatever you have. If you have one, by the way, don't focus on these Reese cups up here, okay? Those are not existent. Don't look at them. If you have one, two's better. Why? Because more is always better. It's the same lie that the snake, Satan, told Adam and Eve all the way back in Genesis in the very beginning in the Garden of Eden. God created Adam and he said, it's not good for man to be alone. So he created Eve and everything was good. They had the perfect existence. Great relationship with each other, great relationship with God. God gave them everything that they needed, and they could do anything they wanted. Until God stepped in one day and said, you know what? Thousands and thousands of trees that you can eat from, that you can find your food supply from. You can eat from any of them except for one. You can't eat from the tree in the middle. You can't do that. Everything else you can do. Nothing else is off limits to you. Just this one tree. You can't do this one thing. And then the serpent comes along. And he says this: did God really say that you can't eat from that tree? Really? It doesn't even look as good as some of these other trees. Why did God say you can't eat from that tree? And he starts putting this doubt in their minds. You know, it might be the most juiciest, best tree in the whole garden. Why doesn't God just wants that for himself? He just doesn't want you to have it. He's just being selfish. It's not going to hurt you. Matter of fact, God knows that if you eat from that tree, you're going to be as smart as God is. You're going to be as powerful as God is. You're going to have what God has, and he doesn't want you to have that. So the message from the serpent back then is the same message that we hear over and over and over again today. That what you don't have is what you need. You realize that, right? What you don't have is what you need. And you need it to be happy. And you need it to feel fulfilled. And you need it to be content. Every marketing message you see everywhere, social media, TV, commercials, what you don't have is what you need to be happy. Why? Because more is always better. That's what they want you to believe. More is always better. So what do you need to be happy? Don't look at these Reese cups. Man, there's all kinds of, little ones, medium. Here, you guys want a Reese cup? There you go. Here, anybody else want a Reese cup? Oh, these are thin ones. This isn't going anywhere, but I'm throwing it out there. Right, there you go. All right, here you go. I know that's as far as I can get. The rest of you are out of luck, okay? But no one else look at these. Don't look at them. Don't do it. There you go. There you go, Dave. I'm not going to leave you out. I can throw one to you. I'm good with that. All right? So what do you need to be happy? More is always better. You need more money. You need more toys. You need more shoes. You need more purses. You need more watches. You need more square footage. You need more vacation time. You need more guitars. That's what you need if you want to be happy. You need more because more is always better. But what if we change that thought process? What if we think of it this way? What if the stuff you have is keeping you from the life that you want? What if the stuff that you have is keeping you from the life that you want? If you have your Bible, open to Acts 27. It's going to be up on the screens as well. Paul's on a ship, and the ship's in trouble. It's in the middle of a pretty bad storm, and they're getting beaten for days and days and days. The ship's taking a beating, and they're hungry, and they're tired, and they're thinking they're going to die, and the storm's raging, and they hadn't eaten anything. Let's pick this up in Acts 27, verse 35. And when he had said these things, he took bread and gave thanks to God in the presence of them all. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. Then they were all encouraged and also took food for themselves. And in all, we were 276 persons on the ship. So when they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship and threw out the wheat into the sea. How much did they eat? You see what it says? Enough. Say that with me. Enough. Enough. How much did they eat? They ate enough. When they had eaten enough, what'd they do? They lightened the ship and they threw out the wheat that was in the bottom. That was their food. That was their supply. That's what was going to provide for them. When they had eaten enough, they threw out the wheat to lighten the load of the ship because they had had enough to sustain them. So just to be really clear, what is enough? What is it? What is enough? Write this down. Enough is when you have what you need. That's what enough is. Enough is when you have what you need. How many of us have what we need? Raise your hands. You have what you need? All of you? You have enough? Everybody, you have enough? You're not just saying that because you're in church and it's a churchy answer and you're going, well, we're in church, God asked you. Yeah, I've got enough. Do you really have enough? Really? Say to yourself, just say it. Not out loud, just to yourself. I have enough. I have enough. I have enough. We can kind of say we have enough, but the problem is none of us really believe that. You all just lied this morning, by the way. I'm just filling you in on that. We don't believe we have enough. Not by the way we live. And let me just say this, there is absolutely nothing wrong with growing your business. That's an incredible thing to do. There's nothing wrong with providing and filling in your 401k and having retired. There's nothing wrong with having stuff. That's not the point. The thing that goes wrong with that is whenever you quit relying on God for what you need and you start relying on yourself and your stuff for what you need. Because that will always leave you empty. Do you believe you have enough? I don't think so. I love the 23rd Psalm, and it says this, the Lord is my shepherd, I have all that I need. The Lord is my shepherd, I have enough. And if we're going to develop a healthy habit for our hearts, it's just simplifying things and living this less is better attitude. We need to find a way to see God's plan for our lives. We need to find a way to say, really? More isn't always better, because it's not. Maybe we need to pray this prayer. Lord, give me less of what doesn't matter and give me more of what does matter. God, just give me less of what doesn't matter. Give me more of what does matter. That's Jesus' teaching in Matthew 6. He says this, don't store up for yourselves treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven where moths and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. Remember, we're talking about habits of our hearts. things that need to change in our lives that we need to get in order if we're going to live the abundant life that God has for us. So if you want to change your life, change your habits. And if you want to change your habits, let God change your heart. We talked about that last week, that quote from Craig Groeschel. If you want to change your life, change your habits. If you want to change your habits, let God change your heart. Jesus says, don't store up stuff. Don't store up stuff that doesn't last. Don't keep accumulating more and more and more and more. But the reality is, that's what we think is going to make us happy. We think more stuff's going to satisfy us, right? I mean, that's just the truth. We want bigger bank balances. Why? Because we think money is going to provide happiness for us. And it can provide some needs for us. But ultimately, it leaves us pretty insecure. Why? Because it depends on who's president as to what your 401k does. It depends on what happens to the interest rates, depends on how much money you have, which then determines your happiness in life, if that's where you're putting all your faith and your hope. Right? I mean, for us, we put our security in money. Now, it always leaves us insecure. Maybe we want a new outfit. Why? There's nothing wrong with new clothes. Some of you, I'm glad you got dressed today. It's great. You're not in your pajamas. You showered this morning. It's a good day for some of us, right? It just is. And some of us, we buy clothes for different reasons. Maybe our body size has changed. Maybe we need to buy bigger clothes or smaller clothes or just new clothes. Maybe we wanted a new outfit because we live in Ohio and it's January. And it's going to be -10 on Tuesday morning. So you better have gloves, a hat, a coat, another coat, another coat, and another coat, right? And then the day after, it's going to be 90 here in Ohio. So you need shorts and a t-shirt. You buy clothes for different reasons. But sometimes we buy new outfits to validate who we are. Because we want people to see what we have on and for us to feel good about that. And there's nothing wrong with some of that. But why do you do what you do? Is it just to make yourself feel better because we're empty on the inside? There are better ways to fill up the inside. Maybe you remodeled your kitchen. I know 2 families that did this. They don't go to church here. They did 3 times in 3 years. 3 times. New countertops, new floors, new cabinets. 3 times. Why? Well, they're not going to be honest because they're lying to themselves. To tell you the truth, their marriages are on the rocks. And so instead of investing time to fixing the marriage, they invest their time and their energy and their emotions into fixing something they don't like about their kitchens. And so now their kitchens are beautiful for the 3rd time over, so they don't have to deal with the issues in their marriage. So you're focused on stuff to bring your happiness, to bring you peace. What does it mean to have less of what doesn't matter? What does that mean? I mean, if you want less of what doesn't matter, what do? Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a large crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. So what's slowing us down? What's hindering us? Maybe it's just stuff. Maybe that's what's hindering us. Do you realize how much stuff you actually have? I mean, do you realize? We lived in our last house in Lakewood for 21 years. You realize how much stuff you accumulate when you live somewhere for that long. I am thankful that we moved out of that house to a different house and we had to get rid of a lot of our stuff. Now we've replaced our old stuff with new stuff that takes up even more space because we bought and built a barn so we can now store more stuff from our overcrowded closet. Do you realize that your walk-in closet is bigger than most of the world's houses that house 8 to 10 people? Do you realize that? Your walk-in closet is bigger than most of the world's houses. And you walk into your walk-in closet, and what do you see? Clothes. And more clothes. And more clothes. You got stuff on hangers. You got stuff on shelves. You got stuff in laundry baskets. You got stuff on the floor. You got stuff hanging off the ceiling. You've got stuff. And yet you walked in there this morning and said, I don't have anything to wear. Really? Not only do you have stuff in your closet, but again, you've got stuff now in your basement that came from your closet because you no longer have room in your closet, and you have stuff that's now in your garage because it overflowed from your basement into your garage, and you have stuff in your storage shed that should not have even been still with you. But you're filling everything up, and some of you have even rented self-storage spaces because you have so much stuff. And Jesus says, you ever thought about not accumulating stuff? What if the stuff you have is robbing you from the life that you want? Here's just a thought. I mean, we're talking about habits to get us back on track, right? It's a new year, new habits, new things in our lives. Here's a thought. If you haven't used it in the last year, how about you get rid of it? Wait a minute, Scott, you're stepping on my toes. This is my stuff. Don't tell me to get rid of my stuff. I've spent a lifetime with this stuff. I'm not getting rid of any of my stuff. Don't mess with my stuff. How about when you get a new one, you give the old one away? Matthew 25, we're collecting pallets and pallets and pallets and pallets. I don't know how many, 30-some, 40-some pallets that we as a church have already given to Matthew 25 Ministries so far. Guess what? Clear out your closets. Clear out your barns. That could be a song. Maybe I'll write that. Give it to Matthew 20. Bring it here. We'll donate it to people in need. Maybe you give it to a friend because you don't care if they have too much stuff. You just don't need too much stuff. Let them suffer through that, right? For every new pair of shoes, how about one has to go? Scott Butler, our sound guy, and I were talking this morning, and I had no idea he was into shoes. I have so many pairs of shoes. Okay, Scott, before you buy another pair of Hey Dudes, a pair has to go. All right?
How are you getting rid of?
Okay, Scott, before I buy another guitar, one has to go. Ugh, I hate that. But maybe that's what has to happen. Before you buy something new, something old has to go. Maybe that's where it's at. Don't let stuff weigh you down. Ecclesiastes 4 says this, better one handful with tranquility than two handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. Anybody like Reese cups? I love Reese cups. Better is, we got the really thin ones in here. These are kind of cool. We got the mini ones. We got the bite-sized ones. There's some pretty cool stuff. Better is one handful with peace and tranquility. Here's how we live our lives in our current culture. We don't just take two handfuls. We take handfuls and we put them in our pockets, and we put them in these pockets, and we throw them on the ground, and then we put more in, and then we take two handfuls and we're like this. Because more is always better. Always. More is always better. More is always better. Right? I can't get to you, Steve. I'm sorry. That's as far as I can throw it. We believe the myth that more is always better. But what happens? What happens if you... Yeah, you're going to scoop those up for a while, aren't you, Sarah? What happens if we choose just to do one handful? What happens? I'm not throwing any more out. That's it, all right? What What happens if we choose just to do one handful? What's it leave this hand free to do? How about give somebody a hug? You see, when you have two handfuls, you're so focused on your stuff, you miss the most important things in life. What happens when you have a free hand? Maybe you can praise God with it. Maybe it's time for you to raise your hand and worship at some point and just surrender to God. What happens if you have a free hand? Maybe you can help build something for someone. Maybe you can fix something for someone. Maybe you can serve someone. Maybe you can just be there and fist bump somebody for some encouragement that day. You see, when our hands are so full, we have no peace because we're always worried about our stuff. Always. Now, stuff isn't bad, but when we're worried about our stuff, over worrying about the relationships around us, we've missed the purpose in life. One handful brings peace, tranquility. You've got enough to provide for yourself. You've got enough. But you're not focused on what you don't have. Now, if you realize that you've only got this one life on this earth in a physical form, if you realize that, and then you realize that life is really, really short, then it kind of makes clear what's most important, right? And you got to get to that point at different moments in your life. If I ask you, in your life, what really matters? What matters in your life? Your family, your kids. What matters in your life? Your job? Jesus? Shelter? What matters in your life? You know, when you look at that and you really take an honest look in your life, some of you are going to say, oh, my spouse matters. I mean, they're important for me. My wife is valuable to me. Your kids matter, right? Your grandkids matter. Making a difference matters. Your church matters. Showing God's love to people matters. If you were told that you only had a few days left to live, what would not matter? Stuff. Your clothes don't matter if you only have a few days left to live. I sat in the back of this church last week with the guy that started coming right when I had my open heart surgery. And he was on my mind because he had just been diagnosed with cancer. And he sat in the back last week, and everybody left. He was at the 9 o'clock service. Everybody was pretty much gone. And I just sat down and said, how you doing? He said, just started a new chemo, and he said, doesn't look good. Said, there's no cure. He just started crying. I started crying. He started crying. We had no tissues. It was a mess. But you're going, what matters? He talked to me after this morning service, and he said, you know, I've got all this stuff that I don't use, and I don't have time to use. Why did I spend my life accumulating it? Because it doesn't matter. If you were told you only had a few days left to live, what would not matter? Everything that you accumulate doesn't matter, right? Your 80-inch TV doesn't matter. Your new countertops don't matter. Your new furniture doesn't matter. The most meaningful things in life are not things. They're just not. How many of you have kids? Jacob, our guest worship leader today, was talking about his 3 young boys. I've been through that stage, and my boys are now all grown, and they're married and starting to have kids of their own. And my oldest son teaches at Butler Tech right here on Milliken Road. And he called me on Friday. He said, I got about an hour and a half for lunch. You want to go eat? I said, absolutely. So we go out to eat. We had a great lunch together. And he went back to work. I walked in the doors of the building here, and it just hit me. And I get these moments occasionally. Started thinking, where did the time go? You know, where? My kids that are now in their mid to late 20s and 30s. We didn't have those kids when we moved here to community church. We just didn't. We didn't have grandkids. For me, it's so important to focus on relationship for Christmas, birthdays, whatever it is. What do you want for Christmas, Dad? I just want experiences. That's what I want. I want something. So, again, last year for Christmas, Zach and Hannah, they took me to Cleveland to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So cool. Just hanging out and spending time with them. Jake and Allie, haven't laughed so much in my life. They took me to Topgolf and to dinner. And it was so much fun. Caleb and Kayla took me to a Bengals Steelers game, which was a little dicey. I mean, her family all has season tickets. It's a little rough. And then for Christmas this year, Caleb and Kayla bought Nutcracker tickets for us to take Ivy to downtown Cincinnati to watch the Nutcracker, my granddaughter, and it was so good. The meaningful things are so important in life. But it's not stuff. It's what's really important. Better is one handful with what matters, tranquility and peace, than two handfuls that bring all of your attention away from what's important. God, give me less of what doesn't matter. And God, give me more of what does matter. I had you say in your minds earlier in the service, I have enough. I have enough. Now, the problem with that is none of us believe that. We don't live that way. And honestly, you probably shouldn't believe that because it's an incomplete sentence. All right? Here's how we should rearrange that sentence. Because I have Jesus, I have enough. Now it starts to make sense. Because you never feel like you're going to have enough. But because I have Jesus, I have enough. And you can only say that if you have Jesus. And the problem is some of you are sitting here thinking, I have Jesus, but I really don't have enough. Scott, you don't know my life. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't know the mistakes and the trouble and the situations. You know, forget the 80-inch TV. I don't even have a job. I've got bills that I can't even come close to paying. My life is a mess. And I know that there are some of you here in that exact situation. I know that. And if that's you, will you please make a note of this scripture from Philippians 4:12? Write that scripture down. It says this, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret to being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through Jesus who gives me strength. We know part of that verse, but we don't know all of it. We don't think about not having what we think we need to make it. And Jesus says, if you have me, you have enough. Whether you have a table that's full or whether you're hungry, if you have Jesus, you have enough. And I believe Jesus will provide for you, no matter what it might be. In your life, if you have Jesus, if you have a bunch, you have Jesus, you have enough. If you don't have much stuff and you have Jesus, you still have enough. We have to refocus on what's important. We need to shuffle our priorities. And we need to take the stuff out of the equation and say, I've got enough to survive. I got enough that I'm okay. I've got enough. The rest of this, I'm going to use to help the people in need, to serve the people around me, to love those that are unloved, to be part of someone else's life so that they can find Jesus and have enough. Will you pray with me? Father God, I thank you for today. God, I thank you for giving me more than enough to simply survive, but God, for blessing me. God, thank you for that. May I never hold on to things and make things what's most important in my life. God, may none of us do that. May we realize that we're enough because of you. And without you, we're nothing. Provide that for each of us in here. May we all seek you so that we can seek purpose and meaning and significance. and it's in Jesus.